Hello, welcome to Self Yoga. This is the Letting Go series. This is our third session, and today what we're going to do is go over the anatomy of emotions. So, the purpose of this entire series of the Letting Go yoga and meditation classes, again, this is restorative Yin style yoga, is for us to really get an understanding of emotions. We've gone through emotional awareness. We did like a sample practice, and we talked about the technique of letting go by David R. Hawkins. If you haven't already gotten the book, I still encourage you to go do that. Y'all, I don't know what you waiting for. If you at the third video at this point, unless you binge watching all of these at once, which you shouldn't be, I guess you would be able to after all of them are put up, but I'm making it a point to release one of these per week, hopefully to get you looking for something in between. And if you haven't gotten the book, or if you don't have access to the resources to be able to get the book or download the audio book, you can go to YouTube and just type in Letting Go by David R. Hawkins, and you'll get an idea of the anatomy of emotions, what the technique is. And this yoga practice that we're doing is really centered around helping you with understanding emotions so that you can name them, experience them, and then choose what you would like to do with them. All right. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to be discussing the anatomy of emotions. So if you are able to come to a comfortable seat, you have your yoga mat, or you have a blanket, towel, something down underneath you for you to be able to practice on. And today, what we'll do is just start seated upright in a comfortable seated position. You can either cross your legs or bring the bottoms of your feet together. You'll notice that I'm seated on 2 blocks. This is for me because I have tighter hips, and if I didn't have it, I'll be sitting up with my knees more angled up into a V shape rather than more flat, okay? So if you have something that you can sit on, you can just notice what the difference is for you. I have my laptop today. I made the mistake of leaving my phone over my girlfriend's house. I have a second phone that I use to look at my notes and everything. So my phone is right there, and that's what you're looking at me through. So you'll see me go to my laptop, which is actually a lot easier to read and for me to manage the time as well, as we go into our holds. So today we'll just do some gentle movements to get practice going. And yeah, I hope to be able to support you in identifying emotions. I'm gonna name off the emotions from top to bottom, positive to negative, in the same way that David R. Hawkins names them in his book, Letting Go. So go ahead and sit upright. And remember, consistently what we're gonna do is bring our butthole to the space underneath us on the ground, whether it be on the blocks. And you can do so by taking your left hand to one side, lifting the right glute up, and then taking the hand to peel that flesh upward to sort of open up, and then lean to the other side, do the same thing. And now lift your heart forward, and you'll tilt your pelvis forward. All right? And just breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You can feel free to close your eyes, or you can leave them slightly open. Draw yourself in with the sense of sound. What's the most faint sound you hear furthest away? This could be foot traffic outside your home, cars riding by, maybe the hum of your air conditioner or heater. Maybe someone in the other room is talking or watching TV or on their phone. Maybe you have a little light music playing in the background. I'm noticing, I hear the pigeons outside my window. My refrigerator sound that it just always makes for whatever reason. Maybe it's silent for you. What is silence like for you? What does it sound like? Oh, there's a garbage truck in the distance. Try and lock into the sounds that are immediately around you. Are you able to hear yourself breathe? Are you hearing your heartbeat? Are you hearing your stomach growl because it's lunchtime or dinner, breakfast time? Are you able to hear yourself think? What are some of those thoughts? Are you able to bring your awareness into that silence, that stillness, that space between whatever thoughts are coming up for you? What does silence sound like? We'll spend a few more breaths here in silence, the space between thoughts, maintaining our awareness in that space. Notice any change in breath, any movement, fidgeting or twitching, or bodily reactions to the possible discomfort of silence and stillness. Take 2 more breaths at the same pace at which you've been breathing already. And on your second exhale, really sigh it out. And you can begin to gently flutter the eyes back open if they were closed. Notice how you feel just after making the space of locking into one of the 5 senses, which is sound, and bringing your awareness from through your senses from what was the furthest and most faint sound out there to the loudest sounds that are in here, in your mind, in your awareness. That stillness in between the thoughts. Notice what it felt like to connect there and bring your awareness to that space. We'll begin with a few gentle movements and then I'll go to my notes and give you what you came here for. All right? So from that comfortable seated position, wherever you are, take a big inhale. Lift the heart, bring both hands up overhead. And then as you exhale, rotate your torso over toward the right side. Place the left hand on the outside of the right knee. Right hand goes back behind you as if you're a bike to a kickstand. Keeping the spine long, go ahead and gaze over the right shoulder and then press that left hand into the right knee as you bring a gentle twist into the spine, looking back over that right shoulder. Exhale, inhale, exhale once more. And as you bring your next inhale, reach both arms up overhead. And we're moving with the breath. As we exhale, begin to rotate the torso over toward the left side. Bring the right hand to the outside of the left knee. Left hand goes back behind you like a kickstand. And then press that right hand to the outside of the left knee. Gaze goes over the left shoulder. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. For your next inhale, make your way back to the front. Bring both arms up overhead. And then as you exhale, turn the palms out, fingers pointed up toward the sky as you lower your hands down to your sides. And the next thing that we'll do is just place the hands onto the knees and the thighs, however it is that you're seated. Sit comfortably. And then exhale, begin to bring your belly in towards your spine, round the shoulders forward, making yourself small, chin to the chest. As you exhale, and then inhale, bring the chin up toward the sky, chest comes forward, tilting the hips backwards, bring the head to the back. Notice how I'm sounding silly. And then as you exhale, round the back. So we're just doing some seated cat-cows here. Getting the spine warmed up. Inhale, chin to the sky, chest forward, torso or hips go back. And one more exhale. Okay. Next, we're gonna take a big inhale, both hands up to the sky, palms facing in toward one another. And then as you exhale, lower the left hand down to the side. You can bring your fingertips to the earth. Take another breath in, reach the right fingertips up as high as you can. And then as you exhale, press into that left hand as you send your hips toward the right. And then reach your right arm over toward the left side, taking a side bend, lengthening out the spine. The rib cage on the right are feeling a little bit of heat as we stretch here. Take another breath in. And then exhale. Breathe in, press into that left arm, reach both arms up toward the sky, palms face in toward one another, extend, reaching up to the ceiling. And then as you exhale, lower the right hand down to your right side, fingertips on the mat. And as you're exhaling, press into the mat, sending your hips over toward the left side, bringing the left arm over toward the right. Take another breath here. And if you notice that your left elbow is starting to come forward, see what it feels like to draw your shoulder blades back, bringing your chest forward and that elbow back toward the wall behind you. Reach that left arm over the right side. And then on your next inhale, press into your right hand. Both arms come up toward the sky, palms facing in towards one another. And exhale, lower your hands down to your sides. And just feel free to take some gentle movements, whether that be just moving your head in circles, taking the chin to your chest, and then just rolling the left ear to the left shoulder, right ear to the right shoulder, whatever feels good for you. Okay? So most of our classes, whenever there's movement, we'll start out with moving the spine. I don't know what time of day it is for you, but this is generally something that we'll always want to start with before we get into the too much movement. It's something that's very simple, easy for us to get into before we go into our postures, all right? So I'm gonna remove my blocks and bring my laptop a little bit closer. And we'll just stay seated for our postures today, very similar to what we did yesterday. We'll just focus here on the lower half today, all right? Now, the first thing that we'll want to do is lengthen the legs out in front of you. Bring your toes up, pointed towards your nose, and just begin to claw your feet as if your feet are fists and you're just clenching your fist, but with your toes, right? And then open them up and separate the toes as much as you can. And we just want to create some heat in the toes. Just make a foot fist, open that foot fist. Okay? And then the next thing we'll do is we'll just take some ankle circles, trying to only focus on moving the ankle in one direction. Ooh, excuse me. All right? It's tough, And this is kind of an extension of the awareness exercise, because you've got to focus only on the part of your body that you want to be moving, and you'll notice how tough it is. Go ahead and reverse your circles. Circle in the other direction. Yeah, y'all, so the thing about this too is, like, even me, I've been doing this every day. Yesterday I missed it, unfortunately, but I've been doing this every day for about 2 weeks now. And it's gotten easier with time because it's like I'm expanding the awareness into my own body, just starting with my toes and my ankles, right? And what we're doing here is just opening up the joints a little bit and focusing on being able to bring our awareness into specific parts of our bodies. This is one of the ways that we're able to identify what an emotion might be doing for us and where we might be feeling it, okay? All right, so we'll just shake out the feet there. Okay, now, anus to the floor, lean to one side and open up that glute so that your anus is planted onto the floor. Point your toes up towards your nose. Take a big inhale, reach your arms up to the sky. Exhale, hinge at the hips. And then we'll reach for the toes, ankles, or shins as we take our forward fold. And we'll be here for 3 minutes, okay? So here we are in our yoga series of the letting go process. And this is on the anatomy of emotions. So the primary goal above everything else in humanity is really for the survival of the individual and then one's community. The thing that we fear most is the loss of experiences. The mind itself is a survival mechanism that through emotions, these begin to fuel thoughts. And again, many thoughts are the symptom of one emotion. So when we are not experiencing an emotion by pushing it out, we often do things that we don't even know we're doing, right? So these unconscious behaviors are what manifests as a result of us having feelings about a thing that we don't know we have feelings about. What happens is that we can mask ourselves, right? If we have a desire for a behavior, well, this is just an exercise. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So one of the exercises that David R. Hawkins recommends in the book Letting Go is that we ask ourselves what for, right? So if there is, in fact, something that we are curious about, if there is, I use the example of our career, looking at our feelings about our job, the story that we tell ourselves, right? And when we find out what our payoff is from that job, from being there, from the experience that we're having, what happens is we can ask ourselves sort of why. He says what for, but it's simpler to just ask why. All right, well, I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? What for? What benefit do I get? Okay, I get this benefit. What for? Like, what do I get out of that? And you continue to just ask that until you get to a point where you can't ask anymore. And then you get to the core of your motivation, your intention behind the outcome that you're getting. And this is generally where your beliefs are. So you have a behavior that happens. There might be a situation, there's a feeling associated with it. And when you start to ask why until you cannot ask why anymore, what happens is that you get to the core of your belief. And if that belief is inconsistent with what the behavior is, this is where you can begin to change it. But we have to identify the emotion. The emotion is the linking connection between our behavior and our belief. That is the best way that I can describe it for myself. We might come to conclude that there might be a negative emotion to uncover the desired outcome that we want. And this is something that might be in the way of the outcome. So if the emotion that we have from our behavior is energetically or emotionally connected to a belief, the negative emotion might just be because of that inconsistency. So there's an inconsistency in my belief, an inconsistency in my behavior, and the feeling more easily connects the two than any thoughts that we can have, right? We're at 3 minutes, so go ahead and walk your hands up. You can just shake, move around a little bit. You can bounce out the knees. And the next thing that we'll do here is come back onto your elbows, right? So you can prop yourself up with your elbows back behind you. Place the left pad of the foot or the bottom of the left foot on the ground. Bring up the right leg and extend it up to the sky. And then just allow for it to drop. And then just begin to, at the knee, just sort of, what's that word? Pendulum swing your knee. Left, right, and then you can just make circles going counterclockwise, clockwise at the knee, trying to only focus on the knee, right? And then go ahead, reverse directions. And when you get back to center, lower the right foot onto the ground, lift the left leg, extend it all the way. You can just drop it once. And then begin to pendulum swing slowly and with awareness, left to right. Now you can make a few circles, both directions. Try and only focus on the knee. Mine doing this weird like clicky thing a little bit. And then we'll go the opposite direction. Okay. All right, next, we'll go ahead and take that wide leg fold. So we'll start on the left side. Go ahead and inhale, reach both arms up toward the sky, rotate the torso to the left side, hinge at the hips, lower the hands down to the toes, ankle, shins, whatever is most comfortable for you. We'll be here for 3 minutes and I'll continue. So as I was saying, the emotion that we have, if it's a negative emotion between our belief and our behavior, then what happens is that something needs to change. And oftentimes it might be a lot easier to change the behavior because that's something we can physically do, right? So if I don't like drinking soda, right? I'm drinking soda and my belief about drinking soda is that it's good. And I ask myself, all right, well, what am I really getting out of it? And we come down to conclusion that I drink so much soda, my sugar spikes, I'm at risk for diabetes. So my belief is that soda is good, right? The feeling about it is, oh, but I get pleasure in this. It makes me happy. There's joy here. And the behavior of drinking soda is the thing that can be changed faster than the belief that, I feel good about, when I drink soda. So we want to give ourselves something behaviorally that more so aligns with what our belief is. Because if we have a conflicting belief about soda, in this case, it would be, I enjoy spending time with my family. I enjoy my freedom. So maybe I don't want to drink a lot of soda, sugar. I know what sugar's doing to my body. I know the possible outcomes that excessive sugar can have. So now I need to do something else. So maybe we drink bubbly water, right? We ask ourselves what for, and we see, what brings me joy about soda is a bubbly sensation. So we get a soda water that just doesn't have the sugar in it. So we can still get that belief, the feeling of joy and pleasure from our belief about, having to get that from soda to be challenged. And the behavior of starting to drink bubble water over soda begins to overwrite the belief that we can only get this joy from a beverage if we drink soda. So now the belief can begin to change. It's like, I like drinking bubbly water now because it gives me that sensation and I enjoy this. And now, boom, there's a consistency there and it's a healthier, and I don't mean healthy just in the physical sense. I mean healthy as in aligned for what's in your own best interest according to what your beliefs are. So now the behavior and belief are paired together in a way that's more aligned, and it's a conscious choice. It's a conscious choice to not just drink soda. You look up and you're like, oh man, I've just been drinking soda. I found out it's bad for me. And this is another example of using anger in order to invite behavior change. So you look at all the years you've been drinking soda, you're like, why didn't anybody tell me that this is what it was doing to my body, right? And that I could have been drinking bubble water this whole time. You can get angry to make the behavior change, and the behavior change then overwrites whatever beliefs that we have about ourselves. I hope that makes sense. So, and to wrap that all up, we might come to conclude that negative emotions really do uncover the desired outcome. We have emotions to uncover what our survival needs are. So if we just look at what our emotions are, ultimately everything comes down to staying alive. Even that example there, right? Like too much sugar, diabetes creates these other complications if not controlled. So we're almost at our 3-minute mark. So I'm gonna just give us a little bit of time here to just integrate that, right? Challenge your behaviors and beliefs. Challenge your beliefs with behavior change is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Perfect timing. Go ahead and walk your hands up toward the center. And you can just rock your hips side to side, left and right. And then raise your arms up to the sky, rotate your torso over to the right side, hinge at the hips, hands go to the toes, ankles, or shins, whichever is more accessible to you. And as we sit here, what I want to do is just go through each of the emotions here. And we're not gonna, I'm just gonna tell you what they are. I'm not gonna go into a detailed explanation of each and every one, just for time's sake. I wanna get through this part now. So at the lowest level of emotions, we have shame. And there's a number scale too that I think would just complicate things, but to give you perspective, it's on a scale of 20 to 700. We don't need to go through each of them, but at the lowest level, we have shame, humiliation, and self-cruelty at 20. Next, we have guilt. This is where we want to punish and be punished. This is where self-sabotage and suicide and self-hatred are. Next, we have apathy, which is hopelessness, being a drain on other people. We're immobile, and this is really the energy of, as David R. Hawkins says, I can't. 75 is next up. This is the number, just to show you we're working our way up from most negative to most positive. Grief. Grief is loss, separation, sadness, and depression, typically associated with some form of an attachment. Next, we have fear, which sees danger all around. It's avoidant, it's possessive, it's anxious, and it's very vigilant. Desire is what seeks gain, pleasure in getting something, and it is just never satisfied. Anger is something where we begin to overcome fear by force. Resentment happens here, as well as like getting even. That's what this emotion is. Next, we have pride, which is about being right. It's about recognition. It's about perfection. It's about being better than. And then when we get into courage, this is where the positive emotions begin. Courage goes from, guilt and shame and all of those being like, oh, well, I can't, or apathy being I can't. This is where courage says I can do it, and you're excited. Next, we go into neutrality, which is we're comfortable and we're free of emotion at all. Like there just might be neutral emotion to it. Willingness is a positive attitude to everything. Acceptance is just life is good as it is. It's kind of like peace, but it's really just accepting what is. Reason is very objective and it's problem solving. Love is forgiving, nurturing, and supportive. Joy is love despite action of others. So it's just this unconditional love. Peace is oneness and non-duality, feeling a sense of wholeness, completion, and oneness with everything around you. And then at the peak, we have enlightenment, which is where we recognize that power gives and force takes. So we move up the scale from courage with the energy that might have started at anger. And when we're honest to ourselves and others, we begin to really move up the scale rapidly. Low emotions are limitations, and they really blind us from the reality of who we are, which is that one true self. Not to get too spiritual, go ahead and walk yourself up out of the posture and begin to just move around a little bit. All right, side to side, left, right, doing a couple gentle twists. And then next we'll bring the bottoms of our feet together. And you can grab the outsides of the feet underneath the pinky toe area, pressing the elbows into the inner shins, inner thighs, and we'll be here for the next 3 minutes as well. So, the low emotions are really just limitations. And as described by David R. Hawkins, these negative emotions are really just resistances to positive emotions, right? So as we begin to just accept the presence of the feeling through the letting go technique and letting it be is really how we begin to let it go. So as we let go, what happens is we rise up the scale of emotions. And this is probably the best visible thing that we can picture. Imagine being in water and we're at the bottom of the pool where we've got things on, right, that are weighing us down. And as we begin to release them and let them go, we float a little bit higher out of the pool until we get into oxygen, where we can start to be able to breathe again, right? So the negative emotions represent the water, right? And then when we get more into the positive emotions, like we can start to stand up with our head above water, we can see what's out of the water, but we're still in it, right? And we're able to breathe, we're able to move around, right? And we're walking maybe a little bit slower, but until we get on ground, on earth, this is like where we start to experience the positive emotions, because we're free from the inhibitions and limitations of being in the pool with the weights on us. And we don't really know that we're holding these weights until we start to let them go. And that's really what's beautiful about this process, is that we are in fact learning more about ourselves as we continue to release these limitations and let go of the negative emotions that we have. As we accept the presence of the feeling and let it go, that's how we let go. The character of thoughts associated with a surrendered feeling, it starts to change. And we can start to conclude our thoughts about the feeling and all of the racing thoughts that come. As I used an example for myself with the night that I wasn't able to sleep, and I woke up and I had to figure out, like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? I got to the feeling of anger, frustration, and I was able to courageously cancel the meeting. And then I began to, let go of my feelings about how these people will interpret me, what this means about my identity, and let go of the pride that was me doing what I say that I'm going to do, and just accepting the reality. So there's, as I just named some of the emotions, working our way up the scale into more positive emotions by letting go of the negative emotions that I had about even the feelings of having to cancel my meeting that I gave the example of in a previous video. As we start to ask what feeling we might be ignoring, what this does is it can remove blocks as well. Unconscious blocking is a symptom of repressed emotions. All right, go ahead and you can extend your legs out in front of you. Prop yourself up with your hands behind you, fingertips facing away. All right, and then we'll just bring one leg in, right knee pointed up toward the sky, bottom of the right foot on the ground, and we'll just rock our hips side to side. So open that knee out to the side, close it. And what we really want to do is feel into our hip joint here. This is just introducing some small movements. And now you can go ahead and slide that right foot out to the side. And this is a little bit tricky. So without engaging the toes or the ankle or the knee, try and just lift the leg. See, I just engaged my quad. And all we want to do is slowly, keeping that leg as straight as we can, leading with the right knee, begin to make one circle going across the left leg out to the side, extend that right leg, and then bring it back to its starting point. And then we'll reverse direction. Try and lead with the right knee and just follow it. It's almost like you're drawing a circle around the room with your right knee. Ooh. And then lower it back down. You can just rotate that entire right leg from the hip joint. And then we'll do the same thing with the other leg. Go ahead and bring the bottom of the left foot in and just windshield wiper that one knee side to side. Feel into the hip joints. Not joints. All right, now go ahead and extend that left leg and then lift it. And then leading with the left knee, draw a circle. And then as you get out to the side, extend the left leg. And then we'll go back, reversing direction. Lead with the knee. And back to baseline. And we'll wiggle that left leg as well. Okay. So go ahead and separate your feet, and we'll take a forward fold here. All right, walk your hands out as far as you can. Try not to round your back, and we'll stay here for the next 3 minutes as well. As we ask ourselves, again, what feeling we're ignoring, this can remove blocks as well. The unconscious blocking is in fact a symptom of repressed emotions, and we can reduce some energy of the feeling by expressing it so that we ourselves can let it go of the aspects as we break it down. So if we feel angry about a situation, what's the thing that we're angry about? How can we break it up into smaller things without, because as men especially, we feel as if we do get mad and we let ourselves get mad, there's going to be a big explosion of an emotional reaction. In what ways can we sort of chop it up so that we can experience it one bite at a time, right? If we don't eat a whole pizza by like picking the pizza up, it gets sloppy, it gets messy, right? So what we do is we cut it into 8 slices. In what ways can we slice up our anger into 8 sections and begin to take one bite at a time, right? So if we're angry about our job, our boss is mean to us, right? We can look at the situation and begin to experience the anger and let it go. Experience the anger about this part of it, let it go. Maybe there were things that were said, and in all of that, they called you incompetent. Maybe they were disrespectful in another way. They might have lied. They might have done something wrong. Whatever it is, our interpretation of these things here can be broken down into more digestible chunks, right? And that's when we can start to let go of little by little pieces of it. If you were just let go of by your job, can you let go of the routine of getting up and getting ready for work every day? The process of picking out your clothes, getting dressed, the car ride, the route that you take to get to work, maybe the coffee shop that you like to stop at in for bagels or breakfast, the co-workers, the conversations that you have at the water fountain, bringing your lunch in, the engagements or interactions with that cute person that you might like there, the ride home, the after party or after the happy hours that y'all go to after office hours. All of these things can be surrendered little by little if we're willing to examine the whole picture and start to look at it in its smaller sections. So as we begin to also surrender this anger, we're also in the practice of surrendering other emotions as a secondary effect as well. Go ahead and bring your feet in. And then you can just windshield wipe your feet side to side, left to right. Whew. Okay, and we already did our twist, so the next thing that we'll do from here is just go ahead and lie down on your back. Actually, I ended up making this it's gonna be about 45 minutes. So go ahead and lie down on your back, bring your knees into your chest and give yourself just a hug and roll side to side so that we roll out the small of the lower back. And then take a big exhale and squeeze your body in tight as much as you can. And then as you release, extend your arms and legs as you're lying down. So you're lying down, I'm not, because you won't be able to hear me if I lie down. I don't know what it is about when I'm looking up, but extend the feet, pointing the toes, pointing the fingertips behind you. And then exhale and just fall, let the arms fall with the palms facing up toward the ceiling. Allow for the feet to just fall to the side. And just breathe, focusing on that exhale as we wrap up today's session. So Shavasana is very important for integration, as I mentioned in the beginning of this class, when we were bringing our awareness into that space in between the thoughts. That's where I want you to bring yourself when we end classes every time. If I forget to say it, that's where I would like for your awareness to be. I want for you to bring your awareness into that space. What this is also going to allow you to do is identify areas of the body that might have a little more intensity to them. That intensity might be felt as a sensation of tension. It may feel like some tightness. It may feel like some newfound looseness, or you can simplify it as it's hot or it's cold. Hot being more so associated with that was challenging. There might be pain associated with it, or just like new movement that hasn't been there in a while, or a cool sensation that's just like, you know what, that was nice. Kind of like, you know, when you stretch and walk around a little bit, there's like a little bit of a cool sensation of kind of like electricity. So the electricity can be hot or it can be cool, all right? And that's the best way that I can describe it. So as you lie down, just continuing to breathe. I'll wrap up the notes that I have here for us, and then you can just rest here for as long as you need to in the stillness and the silence, and get comfortable here, y'all, because this is where we need to spend more of our time. We need to be here. We need to be in this space where we get to just be. This is recharging for us, and the more of the space that we can create, when we do go to speak, we find that there's much more sense of connectedness in what our words are and how those words are received, how we perceive the world around us, and how the world perceives us. So I mentioned that negative emotions are resistance to the positive emotions. We can very consciously surrender our resistances to love as we just locate our own inner greatness. Going back to the stillness exercise, as we begin to forgive others, what happens is we start to also forgive ourselves. And true self-love, respect, and esteem means that we're no longer externally seeking things in the world, because it can't compensate for our internal, inner sense of self and inner greatness. What happens is that we can begin to enjoy the world, and we're no longer like at the effect of the world. We're no longer becoming reactive to what's happening around us. We're able to be proactive. We're able to respond from a place of consciousness. So relinquishing negative and surrendering resistances to the positive, this is what allows for us to connect to who we are, ourselves, that feeling that we feel when we bring our awareness to that space in between the words and between the thoughts in our mind. And while our behaviors could be even seen as the same, we start to form intention from within. And as we solidify our sense of self in that, how do I describe it? As we solidify our sense of self in this intangible space, that is where we just be, where we just are, what happens is we become, David R. Hawkins says, bulletproof. And I like to be mindful of my language, just, I don't know people's backgrounds, but we become invulnerable to criticism. We become invulnerable to the influence of others, right? When we have this sense of self and we're operating from a place of intentionality and positive emotions and consciousness, where our behaviors aren't guiding our unconscious behavior, that's when things get real. And there's a section in here too about healing the past, that what happens is thoughts and feelings come up as we go through this process of letting go. And we might even ask ourselves if it's even worth it, right? Like, but is it worth it, this process? Because we have to relive things. But the thing is, like, is it worth it to keep having to relive those things? And when you start to just look at it even from the way that you word it, the intention shift, the payoff becomes completely apparent. Because what happens is then we can assign new meaning to the experiences that we've had, and we can start to live in the present. We can make a different context and change our own attitude about the life experiences that we've had, and we can start to heal those experiences. And we start to see things not as, harms or threats or pains, but we can see the gifts in those, in that suffering that we might have had for ourselves, right? And in all of these negative emotions, there is fear. And in that fear, that's what the inhibitions are. So we're inhibited from surrendering and letting go of negative emotions because there's a fear of doing so. There's a fear to letting go of our anger about something or our resentment, because it may feel genuinely like a threat to our survival if we don't have that thing. So it's tough and scary to try something new, but we have to understand that we have the power of choice. We can choose to hang on to that fear or to surrender and let go of that fear and find out what's on the other side of it. So as I wrap this up here, ask yourself, what are your resistances to experiencing the positive emotions? And to do that, we have to identify what our negative emotions are. Is it shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride that's you're holding on to that are keeping you from experiencing courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment? An exercise is to take a situation, just write it out like this thing happened. Write down your feeling about it. And then as you identify what your feeling is, see what it would look like to have that same experience from a different emotional state, right? If a thing happened that made you mad, try and identify other ways that you would be able to feel about it. Same words, no need to change anything, but if you were to keep it as objective as possible, you may feel one emotion, but to go through it and try and lock in another emotion about it, a positive emotion about it, you may see the opportunity for something completely different and be able to rewrite an entire experience and be able to surrender. I'm not saying like this is masking it, but it's just inviting in new perspective so that you can familiarize yourself with not only the negative emotion, but the positive emotion, so that the next time something like that happens, you're able to have that baseline to work with on a way of interpreting it with a different emotion. I invite you to sit in stillness in that space between the thoughts, here in Shavasana, which is just corpse pose or resting pose, and I gotta be mindful with my language. As you lie down on your back, eyes closed or looking up at the ceiling,